Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar hosted by the Southern IPM Center. As part of the USDA NIFA Crop Protection and Pest Management Program, we are providing these webinars as an opportunity for scientists to share successes from their projects. Today, Muthu Bagavathiannan, Assistant Professor of Weed Science and Agronomy at Texas A&M AgriLife University, is going to demonstrate a new Microsoft Excel-based decision support tool that guides informed decision-making to effectively manage Palmer amaranth. He received a 2014 USDA NIFA Applied Research and Development Program grant for the project. Muthu's experience is in weed ecology and management. Through his research, he seeks to understand the evolutionary biology and dynamics of herbicide resistance in weed communities and develop integrated weed management solutions that include both chemical and non-chemical tactics. And just on a technical note, if at any time you can't hear anything or see anything, feel free to post that in the questions so that at least that alerts us to what's going on in the viewer world. Okay? So Muthu, I'm going to hand it over to you and go ahead and start your webcam.
Right, so let me just turn on the webcam. All right, thanks for the introduction and good afternoon, everybody. Let me move to the next slide. Right. If you're listening to this webinar, you probably know how big of an impact Palmer amaranth is causing in the southern US. It's by far the #1 herbicide-resistant weed in row crop production systems in the south, and it's quickly spreading to other regions of the US as well. So it is a big problem, and in response to the widespread resistance, best management practices, or BMPs, have been developed by research and extension scientists. But the implementation really depends on how well we educate the clients on the value of BMPs. More often than not, producers make management decisions based on short-term profits rather than long-term economic implications. The resistance management practices are more often reactive rather than proactive. So we really need to demonstrate how the proactive strategies can be beneficial over long run, even though they can be expensive within the short term period. And more importantly, we need to create awareness among producers and our clients on the value of managing soil seedbank and what it means for long-term weed management as well as the risk of herbicide resistance evolution. So the PAM model, or the Palmer amaranth management model, it was developed to achieve these educational goals. It is a bioeconomic model. It simulates the long-term population dynamics of Palmer amaranth, as well as economic outcomes over a period of 10 years. So it looks at long-term implications of management decisions. It is a decision support tool. So what it does is it helps the user understand and take informed management decisions for managing Palmer amaranth. Many of you would be probably familiar with the RIM model, or it's called the Ryegrass Integrated Management Model. It was developed by Dr. Steve Powell's group at the University of Western Australia in Perth. Muthu Bagavathiannan, she is a grad student at the time, and she improved the original RIM model to make it more user-friendly. Let me take a little step back and give you a little bit of background on the history of how we developed the Palmer amaranth management model. So this all started when I was postdocing at the University of Arkansas with Dr. Jason Norsworthy. He sent me to Australia to work with Dr. Steve Powell's group to understand how the RIM model was put together so that we can develop a similar one for Palmer amaranth management. And this model has been very impactful in Western Australian wheat production systems, and this has been very well received by the research and extension community. So we wanted to replicate that success in the US for Palmer amaranth management. This is a teamwork. biology management and risk assessment components of this model was taken care of by myself and Dr. Jason Norsworthy. And the economic analysis and the user interface were developed by Karen Lindsay, who was a grad student, as well as Dr. Michael Pop, who is a economic professor, a professor of economics at the University of Arkansas. Let me move on to the next one. So before we go ahead and look at the software, I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge some of the sponsors for this project. Cotton Incorporated provided some seed money early on as we get started with this project, and we were fortunate to get support from the USDA, the Crop Protection Pest Management Grants Program, and we also appreciate financial support from our industry collaborators, Dove Agro Sciences, Bayer Crop Science, and Syngenta. So this is a great example of a successful collaboration between university, commodity support, government, as well as industry players. So we are very excited to reach this stage, and it's been a very powerful tool that we developed. So let me close this window and then take you to the software. Right, so the PAM model was implemented using Microsoft Excel. So as you see, it is just like an Excel file, just like any other Excel files that we have. Once you open it, it opens. If you're opening the very first time, it's going to ask you to enable macros because this uses Visual Basics. Let me pull this up and brings up the acknowledgement slide, various sponsors and contributors to this project. This flash will stay for 15 seconds and it will disappear. So this is the title page or landing page, if you will, once you open this software, and it has different actionable buttons here. If you click information, it provides a little bit of background on what is PAM, what are the goals, and copyright disclaimer, as well as contact details if you need to contact for further information or questions. Let me go back to the main page. And then here, credits how some of the sponsors, as well as who did what for developing this proposal, as well as the original model who participated in the development of the model. And the question marks here in each page, it represents the help section, so you can see or get more information on different parts of the software. For example, here in this page, it shows how the model was put together, different components, the framework, and how the information flow is managed within the software. Can do the same. There are save and load buttons and clear buttons. How are they all organized and implemented? Some of the message boxes, what do they mean? And also a screenshot of each page. Then we identify different areas where you can make changes or get more information, and in the notes you can read about those exact sections. And you can exit from here. So the PAM model works in 3 simple steps. The first one is the user defines the system and then builds a management strategy for their system and then compare output results. So it's a very simple 3-step process, and you can start the software from here. Once you click this, it will take us to the defined systems. So this is basically a place where folks customize their operations. So, things like how many crops they grow in rotation, what are the major crops, what are the traits that they usually grow, what fall options they try to grow, cover crops, what are the expenses associated with the different operations, labor, fuel, and also select weed density. So this is essentially, we're asking what is the starting weed density in that particular field. This is a very tricky question to ask for farmer producer, because most folks won't have an idea of what is the soil seedbank size in the field. But we capture that by asking what is the weed density the previous fall. Most folks will have an understanding or have a good grasp of how many pigweed escapes were present when they were running the combines through, and using that information, we capture what would have been a ballpark figure for starting weed seed bank density. The unit we use in the software is 250 square foot, so all calculations are made for this particular unit. From a weed biology and population dynamic standpoint, and when it comes to yield and economic returns, they are calculated per acre basis. And another cool thing with the software is we actually take into account what is the background level of resistance that the field has as they start running the simulations. For example, there could be resistance to Roundup, ALS chemistry, and PPO at different levels, so one can change and customize to their operations. So let me start with a different system. Let's enter the name. And typical duration of crop rotation, by default it's 3 years. We can change it to 2 years, so the drop downs are very handy. As you change it, you can see the cells disappearing, and when you put it back for 3 years, it will come back. So it's set up to change automatically. So let's go back to a 2-year rotation. With that, you can change your crops that apply to your rotation. So we have 4 crop choices within the software: cotton, corn, full season soybean. So FS is a full season soybean that is typically planted during May, somewhere around that time, and double crop if it is planted following a winter wheat crop. So there are 4 different crop options. If you keep cotton there, and we ask for what is the expected yield, because that's important to calculate the economic returns, as well as expected price per unit of the commodity that they expect for the particular year. For example, cotton, if they expect 70 cents, then they can change it here. And calculate total specified expenses. So this is where one would specify expenses towards field maintenance, fertilizer, the overall expenses towards crop management. So it brings up a user form. There are some default values already entered. For example, fertilizer, insecticides, or fungicides. The thing they would spend some money on fungicide, can add that value here. Wait until it pops up, and you notice it's already calculating the changes made here. If it's the land is rented, they can enter those values. The interest rates, again, if their interest rates are a bit lower, they can change it here too. And the expected yield-specific costs, for example, drying, checkoff fees, hauling expenses, all those things can be changed in this user form and then saved. Now you see, it's done to colleagues. It's showing that we've changed those numbers. And then year 2, let's keep corn, and expected yield can change to 200. It's just an arbitrary number, and then expected price per bushel of corn. And again, you can calculate total specified expenses for this particular crop. And one thing you will notice is you can only change or make changes to the cells that are highlighted, but the other areas are frozen, so you wouldn't be able to make any changes in those places. Let's say, just change it to 5% interest, so it makes some. All right, so it's changed. Then moving on to the specific traits. The first year we're going to grow cotton, or it's 2-year rotation, so it's going to be year 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 will be cotton, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 it will be grown with corn. For cotton, we have a whole list of traits that are available for a producer. Notice that we also have some of the new traits, enlist, cotton, extend. We have enlist and extend for cotton and soybean, whereas we have enlist only for corn. Those are new traits. One can choose, for example, we want to try enlist, light or liberally in year 3. When they come back, probably extend and liberally. For corn, again, these are the traits that are available. Either they choose conventional, enlist, Roundup Ready or Roundup Liberty. Let's say Roundup Liberty, Roundup Ready, enlist. So this is to again customize their profile, but also provide some starting place when we go to the next stage. But they will still have the flexibility to change these in the next step. Right. Select weed density. Again, if it's low weed density, we're looking at 1 to 3 escapes the previous fall per 200 square foot area. Let's say a high starting density of 8 to 15 escapes. That's quite noticeable in the field. And level of resistance to Roundup probably high, and ALS chemistry high, and PPO none. So what happens here is once we choose none to moderate, it automatically adjusts the efficacy of all the herbicides that have that come under the PPO chemistry. So let me change it to none. Right, here you can take a printout of this page or whatever customization the user has made. But before moving to the next page, we need to save it. Otherwise, we will ask for please save this current system before proceeding. Okay, so I'm going to save this system as a, let's say, 2-year rotation. So this is the new system, new customization that I just made for my system. I'm going to just save it. Current system has been saved. Okay. As you see, it's saved, and you can reload it. And when you come back, you can also load the system one back if you want to make comparisons. All right, let's go to the next step. So this is a most important step. This is where one will build their strategy or different management programs that they want to try and evaluate using this software. As you see, it takes some time to load all different components of this page. All right, so what it tells is all default information for the current strategy has been loaded. I'm going to say OK. So before we go and build the program and evaluate it, what it does to the risk and economics, what I want to do first is to make you familiar with this page. So on the ribbon on the top, what you see is amortized 10-year net cash flows. That this is represented as NPV, or net present value, which reflects time value of the money. In other words, the dollar earned today is worth a lot more than a dollar earned tomorrow. So the economic calculations actually capture the NPV. So the value you see here is the average returns per acre over a 10-year period. And again, you can print it from here. This is a help button. When you click it, it shows the different components of this page, and more description are provided. And again, there's more in the build strategy area, some of the error messages. So these help buttons are really helpful if you run into any issues or not sure what each section is doing here. All right. Right here, what you see is the weed control cost. This is for the system or the program built. This is the cost that incurred for this whole system over a 10-year period, split by each year, year 1, 2, 3, all the way to year 10. And the next row, you see the spring seed bank size in hundreds of thousands per 250 square foot area. You see that that the seedbank was high for this particular program, and it's going down and it's a little higher. Then from year 4 onwards, it's kept at a very low level. Then the yield of the crop, for whatever crop that was chosen for that year, with the respective units. For example, for cotton, we're looking at 1,200 pounds per acre in year 1, and so on. And here is the net returns, the row 4 net returns per acre in dollars. What you see here is an average over 10-year period. And as we go further down, these are the different options that are available. As you see, there are chemical options as well as non-chemical options that one can use to build a management program for farmland. And further down, we see an area where there is feedback as well as warning messages that will pop up as we choose different options that are inappropriate. I will go over them as we go along with building a program. But right now, what you see here is in a feedback section, crops planted too frequently. So you have cotton and corn. What it basically tells you is the rotation is not necessarily a robust crop rotation. The varieties planted too frequently. You have Roundup Ready and Liberty Roundup Liberty Links. If you look at across the 10-year period, those are the most frequently planted varieties. This is just for educational purposes. It doesn't affect the functionality of the software, but when these messages pops up, this provides more educational opportunity for the user. All right. So let's start with the different options that are available on the left to start building a program. Again, we have year 1 all the way to year 10 here. Crop rotation, because we chose in the previous part, or previous page, we're going to have a 2-year rotation as you see here. So it pulls up cotton, corn rotation, cotton, corn, for up to 10 years. But you do have the flexibility to change it from corn to, for example, if you want to change it to soybean full season, change it. Now you see a error warning that's showing up. So what it basically tells you is Acuron or Atrazine, they're not appropriate herbicides for soybean. So we'll just delete it. This is just to make sure we're not choosing a wrong herbicide for a crop. And for example, if we chose a trait again that applies to the full season soybean, let's say Enlist, it's going to automatically pull up the herbicides or default herbicides that apply to the trait. Here there's another error message that says inappropriate tank mix. What it basically shows here, authority MTC has metribuzin, boundary also has metribuzin, so you don't want to spray 2 herbicides with the same AI, so you can either delete that or change to a different herbicide. I'll do it again. So you can say it will show up the same way, dual magnum and warrant. I mean, these both are fluoracetamides, so you wouldn't necessarily tank mix these two, so it shows an inappropriate tank mix. Another error that you see, if you selected 2 herbicides that are identical, it's going to show another error message, duplicate selections. So these are error messages that help the user avoid some of the common errors. All right. So now we have crop rotation, different crop selector, specific crop trait. Well, now we have all these different traits. We already selected Enlist in the previous page, so it pulls up Enlist automatically by default. But you do have the flexibility to go and change it to something else. And once you do that, it automatically pulls the default herbicides for that crop trait throughout that year. And row spacing. Row spacing only applies to soybeans. Let's see. Here there are 2 row spacing options: wide row as well as narrow row. You can choose narrow row here, and it impacts the profits as well as risk of risk. We'll get to that in a minute. And soil preparation, you can do shallow till or no-till, go back and forth, and if you're in a no-till system, you can choose no-till throughout, or if you want to do shallow till, because different tillage systems will have impact on the population dynamics of palmer amaranth. And we have burn down options, 2 herbicides for burn down. You can choose from a list of herbicides that are applicable for this particular crop and the trait that we've selected. Pre-plant, it's only available for cotton because because of when we plant cotton, we don't need to use a pre-plant application for other crops that we have in the software. Pre-emergence, again, there are 2 herbicide options that you can choose. Or 2 applications, 2 tank mix formula that you can choose from the list of herbicides available. Post-emergence 1. So that the first post is typically applied in most crops, including corn, whereas the second post and lay-by are only typical to cotton because how long it takes for the canopy closure and prolonged field emergence. So at least in the southern US, the post-emergence applications and lay-by are very common in cotton. And then we have fall options. Let me look at, so it provides option for more growth plowing. That's a pretty very impactful practice for reducing seed bank size. Let me put it back. And as you see, I have more growth plow selected twice. You can see duplicate selections, warning message popping up. Delete that. And there are also a couple of cover crop options. Either you can choose a cereal rye cover or a mix of cereal rye and a legume. And what you notice is if I choose cereal rye cover, Roundup automatically pops up as a burn down option because you would need that to terminate the cover crop before planting the main crop. So this is just an example for year 1, and you will do the same for different whatever crop you chose and the trait and the herbicide options. And for soybean, we have 1 harvest time weed seed control tactic, that's windrow burning. The research conducted in Arkansas by Dr. Jason Oswald really shows that windrow burning can have a huge impact on palmer amaranth seed bank size. So we added that as a practice for only when you select soybean. For example, I take it back to corn. Now also the herbicides are applied to corn. Say addressing there. In the fall options, you will not have windrow burning because it will not apply to corn. So you will go and change different options for different crops across a 10-year period. Then I do want to point out some cool things that we have in this software. This is the palmer amaranth escapes. So what it shows you is for the management program that you selected and for your starting palmer amaranth seed bank density as well as pre-existing resistance, this is how the number of escapes look like with this particular management program. For year 1 to year 10, it is in column number 1, and across each row, the number of escapes for 6 different cohorts from mid-April all the way to early July. 0 in this particular case. You have few escapes in the late season, but overall it looks like you don't have much problem with escapes, and that is also reflected in the soil seed bank density that you see in the springtime from year 4 to year 10. And another important aspect of this tool is a risk assessment tool. So what we basically do is we assess the risk of resistance for the overall management practices selected by the user. It is not a resistance simulation model. We don't take into account the genetics of resistance, but what we do is we kind of assess the overall health of the system. And this tool actually has 22 different parameters, or uses 22 different parameters in calculating the resistance risk. And that includes how many crops are grown, how diverse the herbicides are, are there pre-emergence herbicides used? How diverse are they? Are there fall practices implemented, cover crops, um, as well as this overall seed bank size, because that's going to have a high influence on the risk of resistance. So for this particular management practice, we selected this. It says the risk, what the risk bar actually shows is it does not predict resistance, but it tells you the resistance level for the set of management practices selected. And the risk factor in this particular program can be inadequate herbicide trade rotations, and it also provides suggestion for the user to change their management. Try the following: increase herbicide tolerant trade rotation. This is based on what they selected. So the real value of the risk assessment tool is they can look at what they're not doing correctly, and then they can go back and make changes to their program and evaluate what it does to the risk of persistence. So what you see on the right again from so this is the risk bar, if you will, ranges from 0 to 100. It's going to stay low when you have a very diverse weed management program with fall practices and pre-emergence herbicides and with a good crop rotation, and that has huge impact on soil seedbank. Whereas if you start making changes, for example, if I remove moldboard plowing in the first year, because as you see the starting seed bank is about 130,000 seed per 250 square foot. That's pretty significant amount of soil seed bank, because we had moldboard plowing here. It drastically reduced the amount of seed that's available in the top layer. Let me take that off and see what it does to the risk of resistance. As you see, it automatically increases the risk. So folks can see and understand the importance of moldboard plowing in this particular time. All right, so we do have a suggestion here. You don't want to moldboard plow every year, so it's typically once every 5 years. In year six you can do it, but if you didn't do it, it will have an impact on the soil seed bank size, but the risk, it isn't as high as if you didn't have moldboard plowing here. Right, we'll put it back. You can see how huge of an impact it has. It again goes back to how early you manage weeds and how much of a seed bank reduction is achieved within a very short period. Then once we have that, what you can do is you can save this as a particular system. I'm not going to save it right now, but we'll come back and create two systems and compare. And you can go to the next page. Say, okay. So this is where we compare the outputs of two different systems. So in this case, you can choose one and compare with another one. And we have comparisons of seed bank size over a 10-year period, crop yield for both systems or both strategies that we selected, and economic returns for diverse options, which is one that's highlighted in blue, and then non-diverse options, it's in light green. And you can also see how the risk of resistance compare between the two systems, as well as the net present value, $639 versus right around $1,400. Let's go back to the build strategy page, and let's build two scenarios or two strategies. One, if a producer does not use any of the fall options, just take off everything. You can see the risk is going up, and maybe they don't use, they only have one post-emergence option. You can already see they're starting to lose a lot of money. I put it back there. Right. So you can notice even though they have uh, quite a bit of herbicides used, but it isn't making huge impact on the soil. Seed bank size for the program selected, and the net returns for a 10-year period is right around only $200, and they're losing quite a bit of money, um, and the soil seed bank size remains high. So we're going to save this as a locatable override data. So we can say a non-diverse option. Let me save that. All right. So now we'll go back to another strategy. I can reset a default strategy that had all different options. Now it's going to pull the default strategy back, and it's going to repopulate all the different options we had initially. As you see, it's coming up, and you can also see those error messages. All default information is now the current strategy. Okay. All right. So we already had a non-diverse option. That's a strategy 1, and then strategy 2. Again, for a 2-year crop rotation, I might want to have another system where I could only grow cotton for 3 years in a row, and then rotate corn for a year, and then come back cotton 3 years in a row. Maybe right. We'll put corn back. We say we'll change it to a different trade, and all right. So maybe let's delete more profile and cover. I can only do more profile. I don't have the resources to plant a cover crop in the first year. I'm going to take out some of the, I could do more work probably gain. Pre-plant, I did not have a pre-plant application. Some pre-emergence. It is just a different program that we're building. In those years, you only had some lay-by, couldn't do a MSMA, or you only right. You didn't have a lay-by in those years, but you can already see how the profit has been decreasing because of increasing soil seed bank size. Let's say I'm going to do a serial write cover again. I couldn't do serial write here. Start this. All right, so you can consider this as a second system that you, or a second management practice or a strategy that you selected, and you can save this as, you can give a different name, my strategy number 2, and save it. All right, so this software allows you to save and load up to 6 different strategies or 6 different management programs that you can compare later in the next page. So let's say now we are in my strategy 2. So this is a strategy that shows. Now I'm going to load it back to my non-diverse option. You can do it. Are you sure you want to override the current strategy? Yes, that's what we want to do. All right, let's wait for a second. Because there are a lot of calculations going on in the background, it takes some time to load those strategies. Okay, now you notice it is a non-diverse option. We did not have any fall practices, so this is our system number 1. We were losing a lot of money, and the average net returns is $196 over a period of 10 years. All right. So let's go to the next page now that we selected two different organisms. Okay, before we do that, let's look at the polymer escapes for the non-diverse option. Right. You see, there are a lot of escapes, especially in the mid to late season, because we didn't have strong wind management programs in those years. Anywhere from year 1 to year 10. Particularly, you see a lot of escapes in year 2, year 4, 6, 8, 10. So these are the years where we grew corn, and as you see, our weed management stopped here, and it was possible there were escapes in those, in those years, and they continued to produce seed. Whereas if we introduced a, let me say, okay, if we introduced a fall practice, say more about plumbing, notice how the spring seed bank size would change. Right, so from 400,000 seed per 250 square foot to only 80,000 seed. So this is another way of demonstrating, the value of non-chemical practices, particularly the ones practiced in the fall. So I'm going to take it back. Let's reload. Okay, before I do that, now we looked at the number of escapes that pertain to this particular system. Say okay, and then so what does the risk assessment say? The feedback: risk factors for your system: high seed bank size, inadequate herbicide trait rotations, inadequate fall practices such as planting cover crops. So one can read this feedback and then go back and make those changes. Try the following: reduce seed bank size by putting together strong programs. Particularly try fall mobile plumbing. That's what we just tested, and you can see it has huge impact on the seed bank size. Increase herbicide tolerant trait rotation instead of only planting liberty-linked or more crops with the liberty-linked trait. Include fall planted cover crops. These tactics will greatly reduce the risk of resistance. Okay. Now let's load the strategy 2 that had a lot more diverse options. Right. It's loading right now. Again, as you see at the bottom of the page, you can see different feedbacks, what crops are planted too frequently, what varieties, so the user can look at it and make changes if they want it. The current strategy has been updated with the user-specified information. Okay. So for this particular management program, let's look at the number of polymer escapes. You do see some, but it's not as bad as it was with the strategy number 1. So you have, in year 1, you have more escapes in the late season, 128, 144. Let me go back and add a lay-by herbicide program and see what it does to the Dirax and MSMA. And you can see that the number of escapes has been reduced quite drastically. So this is, again, this is the beauty of the software. You can go back and forth and see what it does to, the big population size as well as net returns and the risk of resistance. Let's look at the risk assessment. The risk factors here are inadequate herbicide trait rotations and inadequate fall practices, or cover crops. And we do have cover crops, but we could do better there. Try the following: improve fall cover crops and increase the herbicide trait rotation. So those are some feedbacks to improve the system. Now let's go to the next page and see how these two different systems compare. All right. I think I need to save this before. Then okay, save it again. My strategy 2. Okay. All right. rotation, my strategy said yes, okay, non-diverse option. Okay, let's reload it. It's showing some error messages, but it's going to automatically rectify as much as possible. If not, we can go back and delete those herbicides that are not appropriate for a particular system. Okay. All right. What I really need to do now is my strategy 2 and non-diverse option. So these are the two different options that we selected, or the two different programs that we built. On the left is a non-diverse option that is color-coded with the light green color, and my strategy with the blue color. So the seedbank size with the program with the diverse option, you can see the seedbank declines and then stays at a very low level from year 2 all the way to year 10, whereas in the non-diverse option, you can see the seedbank size is fluctuating, but it really stays at a very high level, which is not a sustainable system. When it comes to the yield for different crops that we chose for the 10 years, with the non-diverse options or program 1, you can see we're losing crop yield, particularly in years 2, 4, wherever you grow corn, there's quite a bit of yield reduction. Whereas in the diverse option with the Mike strategy 2, the yields are pretty stable and you're achieving the maximum yields except in year 10. That's I think it's due to increasing seedbank size during the period. Here is net returns over a 10-year again with the non-diverse option shown in these green bars. You are losing money in years 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Whereas when you are growing cotton, in the year 1, that you're making more money than in other years, but still it isn't high enough. Whereas if you had a diverse program, my strategy 2, you see higher yields, higher net returns over the period. And you can also compare the level of risk, resistance risk in these two systems with the one non-diverse option, program number 1. There's about 40% risk, and your net present value or average returns are only $196. Whereas with the My Strategy 2 or more diverse option, your risk has reduced to about 18, under 20% risk, and you're looking at making right around $1,800 per acre over a 10-year period. So again, you can print the outputs from here. So the just by clicking the print button, there is a help button also that shows what each of the graphs actually tell you. And you can exit from here. You can go back to the build strategy page, and you can actually, like I said, build 6 different programs and save and load all those 6. And when you come here, you can pull them and compare side by side to different programs. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, and the software is currently available for download at the University of Arkansas extension website, and we can circulate a link to that, or you can Google and just Google PAM University of Arkansas. It should take you to the file right away. So that's all I have for today, and I really appreciate your time. I'll be happy to take any questions. We have 10 minutes left.
If people have questions, there should be a question box that you see. Just type your question in there, and then I will read it to Muthu.
So let's see. Are we getting any questions?
I don't see any right yet. Right yet. Oh, here we go. Do you have plans to determine how this is being used and is succeeding?
Do you mean future improvements, or how are we going to use it in our extension programs? Is that?
I think what she's asking is, are you planning on doing some sort of evaluation to see how it is being used, and how, whether or not it is succeeding in the field?
Right. So what we've done so far is we sent this software to different stakeholders and industry personnel to see what they think needs to be improved, so we can accommodate those changes. In fact, this went through a lot of revisions, and what we see here is the most up to date, and we believe it's more user friendly. But what we are going to do is we're going to take it in the next step and use it in extension programs from a mostly as a workshop format in a small group demonstrations, and see how well they can quickly learn and use this software. So that's kind of our goal to start with. And what we also do is, for example, this webinar, we're going to do more demonstrations of this software so people can quickly learn and start using this. From an impact standpoint, we're going to have a survey. On the website, we ask for folks to sign up their email address, and we're going to get in touch with them and see how well this software has been useful, and also any feedback that they have for improving this tool. Does it answer the question?
Yes. So I have another question from Patrick, and he wants to know if it is not possible to do 2 post applications in soybeans.
So our assumption was, generally, if you had a pre-emergence and post-emergence application, you would not typically have a second post application in soybeans. So that's why we don't have a post-emergence option or second post-emergence option for soybean.
Okay, so we have another question from Brandon. He wants to know, are weed control costs based on chemical price averages?
That's right. So these are based on chemical price averages. So University of Arkansas has a price database that is pretty much updated every year. So we take an average price over a 3-year period, and we input in the model. So it does not take into account any rebates that people might get, or anything of that sort.
Okay. And Siyuan has a question. Do you plan to create a similar model for any other key weed species?
Sure, it's a great question. So moving forward, our plan is to include a driver grass species, because if you see the programs we select, we are predominantly focusing on farmer amaranth, but we are pretty much overlooking grass weeds. So we're going to add boneyard grass, which is our driver weed in the southern U.S. row crop production systems. And there's also interest in adapting this model for water hemp in the Midwest. So that's something we will continue to investigate and improve the model.
Okay, great. We have another question from Patrick. will this be annually updated with new herbicide options, prices, etc.?
That's correct, because that's going to be very critical to ensure the utility of this tool. If we don't do it very quickly, this will become useless. So we have plans in place to update it annually. Yes.
All right, and here is a good question from Jill. Do you intend to track or evaluate if problems from Palmer amaranth are less after adoption of this approach?
Right. So we definitely have plans, and that could be, reflected in doing surveys. There are, for example, in the Mid-South, most states do annual or like once in 4 or 5 years, what are the dominant weeds or grower consultant surveys. So the impact from this software will be reflected in how much of a problem we see five years down the road. And also we will send out surveys to folks who are downloading from the website to see how much changed resistance, either their producers or consultants who they're consulting, how does this tool really impact with the management practices and also solving Palmer amaranth resistance.
All right. And then we have another question from Sonia who says, it sounds like much of the modeling is deterministic. Are there aspects of the model that include variability or randomness?
Right. So we gave a lot of thought about it, and we do have some areas where we capture a range. For example, what happens to the soil seed bank sites, the loss functions. Some of them are stochastic, but it's going to be really hard to add a lot more stochasticity to the model because it's not going to be easy to handle with the Excel platform. So we try to restrict stochasticity as much as possible.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Sandeep wants to know, can PAM, there's two parts of this question. First, can PAM also be incorporated with precision ag tools? And are you also planning on developing an iPhone or Android app for PAM to make it more user-friendly?
Great, two great questions. The first one, how do we integrate it with precision agriculture? That's a question that we've been thinking about really hardly, and we don't have an answer at this point. But we do see a great value in doing that. But we don't know how we're going to go about doing that at this point. But moving forward, we will investigate that and try to come up with some solutions. And number two, the Android app, that's definitely another, the next direction that we will take, either Android app or a website interface. So we are part of area-wide project that's funded by USDA ARS, and what we're trying to do is take this model and work with the area-wide group, particularly Dr. Stephen Mirsky. He's leading that project. So there is quite a bit of interest in taking this and moving it into a website platform, so people can go to a web browser and make all these choices or build programs and get outputs just in a website interface rather than an Excel platform. So those are things that we will do, or we will look at doing in the near future.
Okay. Well, we have 1 minute left. Are there any other burning questions somebody wants to pose at the last minute? Oh,
All right. So
One more.
thanks.
There's one more.
Sure.
What about the resistant level of Palmer affecting the outcome of the model?
Right. So, like I said, if we go back to the first page, the defined systems page, this is where we assign the different levels of resistance, pre-existing resistance in that particular field. So you can choose, we have options for resistance to Roundup, to ALS chemistry, and PPO chemistry. So yes, the model has the capability to account for pre-existing resistance.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Muthu.
Well, thanks to everybody for your time, and look forward to getting your feedback. Let's keep in touch.
Yes, and this webinar is being recorded, and I will send out a blog um, email about when it's going to be when it's posted. So it will also be on our website, which is sripmc.org. So just check back and see where and when the webinar is posted. It'll be in our YouTube. All right. Thank you very
Sure.
much, everybody. And
Thank you. Bye.
bye-bye.